Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de nuestra serie Con el lente en Latinoamérica. Soy Adriana Camisar, asesora de Benebrita Internacional para Asuntos Latinoamericanos y de las Naciones Unidas, y me acompaña nuestro director para Latinoamérica, Eduardo Kohn. Hoy tenemos un programa muy especial. Hemos invitado al embajador de Israel en Panamá, Itai Bardov, a acompañarnos. Y tenemos mucho para hablar porque este año se cumplen 75 años de relaciones diplomáticas entre Panamá e Israel. La entrevista será en inglés, así que voy a cambiar de idioma ahora. Ambassador, it is a real pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. Gracias, Adriana. Y quiero decir primero, hablo y entiendo español, pero para mí es más fácil hacerlo en inglés, entonces gracias por permitirlo, porque quiero hacerlo sin errores, pero muchas gracias. So thank you. It's a pleasure being here with you and with Eduardo, and I follow your program. It's very interesting. I hope this one will be as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Ambassador Bardov, as Adriana said, we are delighted to have you here with us today. Panama has always been one of the Israel best friends in the region, and there is so much to talk about. So let's go to the first question. We like to start these interviews with a personal note. Could you tell us how was your personal experience coming to Panama as an ambassador? Was this your first diplomatic post in Latin America? Did you feel welcome by the Jewish community and the community at large?
Well, absolutely. This is my first time in a diplomatic mission to Latin America. The only time I ever visited Latin America was like 23 years ago on my honeymoon. I was in Mexico and Guatemala for months, but that was my only time in Latin America. So this is my first time, serving in Latin America. I was accepted here. Really, I just have no other words in saying it was an amazing reception by the Jewish community, by the Panamanian community as a whole. The Jewish community here is a very unique and special community, a very warm community. It's about 15,000 Jews here in Panama. I think it was love at first sight. We were really greeted, myself, my family, with a lot of warmth, many Shabbat dinners, invitations to many Shabbat dinners, but also many working together on many projects to benefit Panama and to benefit Israel. And it's just been really an incredible experience these last 2 years in Panama to work with the Jewish community, with the Panamanian community as a whole. But we've just been welcomed here in the best possible way.
Not everybody knows that the Panamanian community with 15,000 people, as you say, is one of the largest. If we take, we take apart, of course, Argentina, which is the largest one, and in certain amount of Brazil and Mexico. I mean, we always speak about the south of the South America, but now Panama has a real community of 15,000. Is much more than Uruguay or Chile, etc. So it's remarkable. So
it's a very successful community. Well, it does very well. They have excellent schools here, excellent education here in Panama for the Jewish community. So you're absolutely right. It's an influential, successful, and very warm, strong community. Absolutely.
Okay, Adriana, your next question.
Thank you, Eduardo. Thanks, Ambassador, for sharing your personal experience. We know the community in Panama is vibrant. It's a very, very warm community.
Yes.
So we are happy you had that experience. And this leads us to the second question. We'd like to know about the state of the bilateral relations between Israel and Panama. We know there is close cooperation on many fields, including innovation, technology, agriculture, of course, education. But in your personal view, what are the areas where you can see that the greatest progress has been made?
That's a great question. And well, we always like to say, oh, the relations are great. So the proof is in the pudding. And really, the relations are really, really good. And I'll explain why. First of all, the relations go back to the day Israel was created. And even before, we actually just posted a documentary that we made on YouTube. So I would urge the people watching us to go to YouTube and write Un Hombre, Un País, one man, one country, about Don Eduardo Morgan Alvarez, who was deputy to the UN ambassador, the Panamanian UN ambassador, before in 1947, before the creation of the State of Israel. And he asked to be, and he was a member of the committee to implement the partition plan. And he worked very hard to make sure that Israel, that the Jews get their own state, the state of Israel. So it goes back even to that time. Panama, of course, voted for the creation of the state of Israel. And we've had an excellent relationship all this time. And so it's 75 years of diplomatic relations that we have with Panama as well. But just in the last year, we had a delegation of 3 ministers, the foreign minister, minister of trade, and minister of agriculture, came on a delegation in April to Israel, where we, in a pretty short time, we managed to do many, many things. We signed bilateral agreements. For example, one of the agreements is Israel is going to assist in building a center of excellence in agriculture, where we will share our knowledge in agricultural technologies with the Panamanians and actually assist Panama in becoming a kind of a hub, technological hub in agriculture, in research and development, and assist farmers in the region, in Panama and in the neighboring countries, to assist them. We had an event, and maybe I'll elaborate a bit later, but a Cybertech event, and during which that we signed an agreement to build with the Israeli company Basecamp to create a technological park here in Panama City, in Ciudad del Saber, where it will help Panama become a stronger technological center, and help it improve its technological capabilities here. So I think the main fields that we can discuss are, of course, technologies, water, agriculture. Another thing is health. Israel, we have Panamanian doctors who go to Israel for a year or 2 years of internship in Israeli hospitals, where they really do the most advanced operations and treatments. And we have an agreement with the Panamanian Ministry of Health to have these Panamanian doctors come to Israel. And, I've spoken to them. They come back. They say it's just an amazing experience. They learn so much, and they can use it here in Panama.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for telling us about all these fields. We didn't know that about the health part, so thanks so much. Eduardo.
Going on with what you have done with ministers and visits in Panama, could you tell us about the fantastic Supertech conference that took place in Panama last month? I think it was called something like Supertech Latin America. Is it right?
Yeah, Cybertech Latam. It is actually Israel has Cybertech conferences around the world, one in Asia, one in Europe, in Israel, of course, in Tel Aviv. There's one in Miami. And for Latin America, we have it here in Panama. It is actually, this was the 5th time that we had it, but after quite a long period of hiatus. I mean, the last time was during the pandemic, but that was only virtual. And then before, this was the largest and the most successful Cybertech Latam that we had here. And because we had around 1,500 participants who came from all over the world. Of course, we had Israeli companies, but we had from Germany, Spain, Croatia, United States, the region, of course, Mexico, Brazil, Guyana. I mean, there were around 20 countries who sent experts in Cybertech to make connections, to learn what Israel has to provide, but also to learn what other companies have to provide. And it was an excellent event because it was diverse. We had excellent speakers. Just to give you an example, one of the speakers was Stanley Mota, who is the co-owner of Copa Airlines and others. But we had the head of the security services of Croatia come to speak. That we had the foreign minister. We had different ministers. The foreign minister, minister of investment, minister of trade, a few ministers. I mean, it was a high level. Many participants got a lot of media coverage as well, and it was successful in creating many connections between different companies. And what I just said before, also during that time, we signed an agreement with Basecamp to create a technological park here in Panama. So it was a great event, and it's another example of the good relations we have with Panama, because together with the Panamanian authorities and different organizations, AIGEN and different organizations here, we were able to do a very, very successful event here in Panama, even though it is led by Israel.
Yes, there are many countries in Latin America that probably could have support something similar, but it's clear that Panama is in the center of the spot. I mean, not only for connection, communications, but the advances that Panama is having now, which is not very well known all over the world, and including not all over Latin America, makes it very important. I think it's very important to have had this for the first time because it shows that you can move on. So it's really, really amazing. Adriana, your next question.
Thank you, Eduardo. Ambassador, I would like to change the subject now to talk about anti-Semitism, because it is a problem that has been growing at an alarming rate in different parts of the world. And we would like to know how you see the situation in Panama, and also if you think that Panama will end up adopting the anti-Semitism definition of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or IRA, which is such a great tool to combat this form of hatred.
Absolutely, yes. So going back to the Jewish community here, whoever comes to Panama, if you come to there's quite a few Jewish neighborhoods here, Punta Pacifica, Paita, you can see religious Jews walking around without any fear, any concern in religious atar Haredim, in with yarmulkes or hats, and there are no problems whatsoever. I'm not saying that anti-Semitism is not in Panama, does not exist in Panama, but I have to say it is very rare to see any kind of anti-Semitic occurrence here in Panama. Maybe on social media, but Panama is a very friendly country to the Jewish community and to Jews, and very friendly to Israel, of course. And I would say that Panama is one of the leading countries that has the least amount of anti-Semitism. And the government of Panama, not just the people, but also the government of Panama, is definitely part of is cooperating with us in combating anti-Semitism. We're trying to make programs in schools together with Minister of Education here to promote the teachings of the Holocaust and so forth. And regarding IRA, that's a great question. And I think I will tell you here, this will be like kind of a scoop, that we are in very advanced discussions with the Panamanian government. They are definitely in support of the IRA definition. And I'm hoping in the maximum next 5-6 weeks, hopefully we'll see something. We're still in discussions about it, but absolutely, I think we can be very optimistic about Panama recognizing the IRA definition of anti-Semitism.
Well, thank you. Certainly great news, not only about IRA, but also what you mentioned about Holocaust education. In several countries, we still don't see Holocaust education in schools. So this is a very important.
Adriana, I'm sorry, I just want to add on this because you reminded me. Panama is one of the few countries, they have an original wagon that they brought in a very interesting story that they managed to bring together with the Jewish community, a wagon that led Jews to Auschwitz, and they brought it here so that students can come and see how these wagons look like how to see with their own eyes an original wagon where Jews were cramped in without nearly any air or no possibility to sit, but they had to stand for this long distance. And that is here in Panama, which it's a great tool also for teaching, to showing youngsters what the Holocaust meant. Just an example. So that is great. Anyone coming to Panama, I would recommend to come and take a look at this wagon.
Absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that. I actually was not aware of it. Thank you. Eduardo.
Yes, Ambassador, what can you tell us about the upcoming participation of Israel in the third regional simulation of responses to disasters and humanitarian assistance, which is taking place in Panama this month, and is a very, very important meeting, not only for Panama, but for all Latin America?
Absolutely. Yes, this is another great example of the amazing relationship Israel and Panama have, because This is a simulacro, but it's done by Sepredenak, which is under SICA, and they are responsible for all the emergency crises in the region in Central America. And this is only their third simulacro, but by far the largest one. And it is for the Central American countries, Latin American countries. From the Americas, you'll have the United States and Canada. And the only two countries outside of the Americas that were invited and that will be participating are Japan and Israel. And we were asked because of the appreciation that Panama has to Israel's capabilities and know-how when it comes to search and rescue and emergency crisis, civilian emergency crises, not terrorist attacks, but floodings, earthquakes, fires, buildings that collapse, and so forth. We're going to have a delegation of around 12 members coming next week to Israel from Israel to participate. This will be the first time in history that Israel is collaborating in an exercise with Latin American forces. We have had teams on real crises who came to Mexico, to Honduras, from Israel to assist, to Haiti to assist during crises. But a simulacro, an exercise, this is the first time that Israel participates, and this is very much thanks to Sepredenak, but also to the government of Panama that sent us this invitation. And together with Japan, we will be the only two countries participating in this extremely important exercise, huge, with more than 1,000 participants and so forth, that will be taking place next week.
It is important that the countries of Latin America understand the expertise of Israel in disaster relief.
Yes.
And it's important that it happens, as you say, as a simulacro, but they need the expertise. For example, in this moment, in the southern part of Latin America, there is no rain for a long time, and the problems with water are very important. Fortunately, some of the countries call Israeli experts, but not altogether, not as you are doing in Panama, and not in the prevention, because what you are doing in Panama is prevention, a simulacro. Unfortunately, they try to fire the fires when the fire is very high. So it's very important. I think this meeting is going to be a landmark.
Yeah, so and I couldn't agree. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. The prevention is a big part of managing emergency crisis. Absolutely, and this is for us. It's a great opportunity to create this connection between the Israeli different security forces. We have 6 authorities from Israel who are participating in this delegation, and to meet their counterparts in Latin America. It's a great opportunity for us.
It's wonderful. Adriana, your turn.
Yeah, I just like to say I'm so glad that Israel is participating, because the expertise they have. Israel sent delegations to help to so many countries in situations of natural disasters, cases of terrorism, like in Argentina. Yes. So wonderful that they are participating.
And just to add to that, the last delegation we had was to Turkey following the terrible earthquake. And we, together with the wonderful Jewish community here in Panama, we donated a huge amount of food, clothes, blankets to the Turkish embassy here to provide assistance relief. And this was here in Panama. And of course, we had one of the largest delegations, foreign delegations in Turkey, and they saved many lives from the rubble in Turkey.
Wonderful. Thanks for letting us know. And we didn't want to end this interview without asking you about the wonderful event that you've just hosted in Panama to celebrate both the 75th, Israel's 75th birthday and the 75th anniversary of relations between Israel and Panama. Can you tell us more about this wonderful event?
Yes, we're Israelis, we're a small country, but we always have to think big. And it's 75 years to the state of Israel, 75 years to the wonderful diplomatic relations between Israel and Panama. So we did something special, and I'm still getting reaction from people who were there. It was an amazing event. So it started with a reception, like all these diplomatic receptions, and we had we had more than 1,000 people come. We had the foreign minister, Minister of Agriculture, members of the Supreme Court, whoever, celebs, and many participants. from all over, high-ranked officials from the government and from the private sector. And following the reception, after the reception where they could taste Israeli food and Israeli wine, we started an event in a large auditorium that holds around a little over 1,000 people, and it was packed. And what we did there is, besides the speeches that I gave and the foreign minister gave, Nancy Spielberg, the sister of Steven Spielberg, she is a movie producer herself, and she created a movie about the creation of the Air Force, the Israeli Air Force. And Panama had a role in that because they brought planes from the United States through Panama, thanks to connection they had with the Panamanian president, made them into like Panamanian airplanes to bring them to Israel through Europe to Israel. So she came and she spoke about the movie she made. We gave all the participants a code that they could see this movie because you have to pay for it. But during this code that they scanned with a password, they can watch the movie, a very interesting movie. And she gave an amazing speech of Nancy Spielberg about this issue. We made a documentary ourselves, which I mentioned, and we showed it. It's a 15-minute documentary, Un Hombre, Un País, about the role of Don Eduardo Morgan Alvarez in his role in supporting the Jews to create their own state. So we screened that as well. We also gave a scholarship together with the friends of the University of Tel Aviv. We gave a scholarship to a student, a Panamanian student, a full scholarship, including everything, covers all costs, to go and study in Tel Aviv University to finish her degree there, her studies in there. And we also brought the youngest mentalist in the world. His name is Nevo Abutbul, an amazing mentalist who really wowed the crowd. He did this amazing, touching one person and the other person can feel it. Guessing the names of the first person someone kissed. He wrote the name and he guessed it before. I mean, he just wowed the crowd. And so it was an event of history, of future, of magic. And I'm getting reactions till today. I mean, people just telling me how wonderful it was. And people who couldn't come and said they heard it was such an amazing event and how sorry they couldn't attend. Luckily, they didn't because we were really packed. It was full. And, we had a lot of people and high-ranked officials who you don't normally see in every diplomatic adventure, but they did come as part of the friendship with Israel and as the respect they have for the Jewish community here in Panama. So I'm still on cloud 9 on this. It was an amazing event for us.
Wow, sounds like fantastic event. Thanks for letting us know. Not many people know about the history of the relations between Panama and Israel. You mentioned that fake Panamanian airline. That's something that maybe, Eduardo, we should do a program about it because I think it's
Absolutely.
very... And the documentary you mentioned also with this diplomat from Panama, I think it's really amazing. There's a lot to explore and to learn.
Yes.
This was we really enjoyed this conversation, Ambassador. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we learned more about the relations between these two great nations. Thank you so much.
Really wonderful relations, and they really are they're just expanding. We're doing new things nearly every day. So yes, absolutely, the closest relations ever, I think.
Thank you, Itai. Thank you, Ambassador. It was a pleasure to meet you again.
You too, Eduardo. Thank you.
It was a great pleasure having you here. To all the people who is following this work, wait for the next episode of Lens on Latin America very soon. We will have another important, interesting guest. But today we enjoyed very much, and we learned the importance of the relations between Panama and Israel, which is a highlight in the relations of Israel with the countries of Latin America.
Yes,
thank you all. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Adriana.
Muchas gracias.
Shalom.
Hasta luego.
Hello.
Shalom. Shalom.